an unconstitutional hoax.
Aloha and welcome to Trust and Verify, the only show where we put out the siren call for Pavlovian dogs to show up and get your influence right here. We are here tonight to give you a good show, but before we get there, I got to introduce my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie Papa. Boogie, how's it going, brother?
Stop hurting me. Please stop hurting me. Can you hurt me some more? Will I get the food now? I'm sorry. I'm helpless. You are in control of me. You do whatever you tell. I do whatever you tell me to do. That's exactly where we want our audience to be, by the way. Just a bunch of mindless followers, James. Sheep right. On this journey into the depths of hell. Thanks so much for that wonderful introduction, Mr. Pavlov. And thank you for joining us, everyone in the chat. What an absolute pleasure to be with you. How's your week been, James? You've been busy? You've been busy working to pay them taxes, brother?
Nah, you know me. I just sleep all day.
Just sleep all day.
That's all I
just do. Sleep all day. You don't do anything. You're not. Do you even have a job at this point? No, you seem to. Whenever I turn on the internet, you're there. I've noticed. You're everywhere.
I'm monitoring all the bins in Hawaii to make sure they're not walking away. That nobody's removing them for their own usage. Making sure that.
Hey, that's my job. That's my job. Hawaii's taking my jobs. Thanks so much for joining us. Yes, as you can tell by the title, this is about influence, and we're going to talk about. Have you heard about the Adpocalypse, James, on YouTube? Whole bunch of people getting demonetized. Yes. Whole bunch of people getting kicked off. And it's true. I do hate the title, but I did come up with it in the same token. So, I hate the term social media influencer. You know, it really annoys me. I really hate that term, and I can't put it into words how much I hate it for a whole number of reasons. Mainly, I think because it's not influence that these people are afraid of. It's a certain kind of influence that they're afraid of. And to put it, one way I put out in a tweet, it seems that if you're an Instagram model who influences 15-year-old girls to pump their face full of toxic poison to, get more likes when they post a selfie or purchase ridiculously priced handbags at exorbitant rates, then you're a good influencer, right?
Right.
If you make young girls feel insecure and the only way to get out of that is for them to fork over more cash for makeup and Botox and handbags and clothes, you're a tremendous influencer. You're an asset to the internet community. But if you influence people to look into things like, say, the history of government corruption in the Western world, the underlying philosophies of Western civilization, and influence people to gain a new appreciation for, cornerstones of our civilization, such as free speech and free assembly, James, then you must be ripped off the internet. You cannot be allowed to influence people in this manner. So that's what I wanted to get into today. Shall we kick it right off? Shall we go to our first piece here?
Let's do it. Rock this show.
Let's kick this chicken. Let's fuck this pig, James. Caleb Kane was a college dropout looking for direction. He turned to YouTube, James. This is an article in today's New York Times called "The Making of a YouTube Radical." Soon he was pulled into the far-right universe, watching thousands of videos.
Hold on, what was that title?
Making of a YouTube radical, James.
Wow.
A radical YouTuber. Yeah.
Wow. That's not influential. That's not subliminal conscious right there. No,
of course not. And you can see you've got people such as Dave Rubin, Stefan Molyneux, very far-right guy, Stefan Molyneux. Gavin McInnes is up there, Faith Goldie, Lauren Southern. Who else have you got? You've got even the USSR defector from the 1970s, James. Yuri Bezmenov makes an appearance. He'll be very pleased with that. YouTube wasn't even around when he was alive. Wow. He's still influencing people to become radicals. Pro-capitalist, pro-America, anti-communist radicals, James. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Can you believe such a thing exists? Oh, the horror! The horror! How could you? Incredible stuff. I was brainwashed. Caleb Kane pulled a Glock pistol from his waistband, took out the magazine, and casually tossed both onto the kitchen counter. I bought it the day after I got death threats, he said. The threats, Mr. Kane explained, came from right-wing trolls in a response to a video he had posted on YouTube a few days earlier. In the video, he told the story of how, as a liberal college dropout, he's not alone there. He's not Robinson Crusoe there. We could literally be dealing with tens of millions of future far-right radicals, James, if it comes to liberal college dropouts, struggling to find his place in the world. Beware! Beware. One day you're sending them off to liberal arts college. The next day you're dealing with a Nazi in the kitchen. Beware, parents. Struggling to find his place in the world, he had gotten sucked into a vortex of far-right politics on YouTube, James. I fell down
a vortex of right-wing politics on YouTube.
Yes.
Seriously,
yes.
On YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah. I fell down the alt-right rabbit hole, he said in the video. Mr. Kane, 26, recently swore off the alt-right nearly 5 years after discovering it. He went cold turkey, James. I think that's the problem. I think you need to wean off.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to stop being an alt-right.
Got to go to the methadone clinic before you go cold turkey. Yeah. You can't go straight from no heroin. I mean, it'll kill you.
No, I mean, you can't go directly from ethno-state to multicultural paradise. I mean, how about you just discriminate against, a few groups of people first and see how that feels, and then slowly drop your discrimination eventually till there's only blacks and Jews left. And then you can start to, come back into normal society. He is scarred by his experience, James, of being radicalized by what he calls a decentralized cult. Really? I didn't know you could put those two words together. No, funny.
Wait. This guy's a writer, right? This guy actually went to school, so that I'm assuming he's got at least a major or a minor in English at some point.
Surely.
Surely. He's probably got 4 or 5 dictionaries, maybe a thesaurus or 2 in his house, and he just attached 2 words together that by definition cannot go together. Like it's like impossible. You cannot. It's like trying to hook AC power to DC. It just doesn't work. It just blows shit up.
James, haven't you ever heard of dry water? The dry wetness? The decentralized cult? The lowly highs, James? The high-reaching lows? It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times. Of far-right YouTubers' personalities who convinced him that Western civilization was under threat from Muslim immigrants and cultural Marxists, that innate IQ differences explained racial disparities, and that feminism was a dangerous ideology. My God, the horror.
The horror.
The horror, James. I just kept falling deeper and deeper into this, and it appealed to me because it made me feel a sense of belonging. I was brainwashed, and there's Caleb there, the young man, no longer brainwashed, you'll be pleased to know. He's just being held up on a pedestal by the New York Times, so he's perfectly sane. He's perfectly normal. Over years of reporting on internet culture, I've heard countless versions of Mr. Kane's story. An aimless young man, usually white, frequently interested in video games, visits YouTube looking for direction or distraction, and is seduced by a community of far-right creators. This is how it always starts, so innocently. One day I was just a liberal dropout playing Fortnite. The next thing you know, I'm goose-stepping in the local supermarket trying to bring people into my decentralized hate cult that I learned about on YouTube. Some men, James, discover far-right videos by accident, while others seek them out. Some travel all the way to neo-Nazism, while others stop at a milder form of bigotry. The common thread in many of these stories is YouTube and its recommendation algorithm, the software that determines which videos appear on users' pages and inside the up next sidebar. Yes, it's all YouTube's fault. Next to a video that he's playing.
Fucking censor, motherfucker. I just fucking knew it. I can tell. This story's headed to how we're going to agree with it's all YouTube's fault. We need to change the algorithms so that we completely convert society into this great 1984 perfect nirvana. I knew this is where the story
Yes.
was headed. I mean, you know it. You could just tell.
Well, here's an interesting thing for you that I've, just occurred to me recently. Do you remember a couple of years ago, we were labeled conspiracy theorists for even suggesting that these companies were attempting to engage in some kind of social engineering in order to shift perceptions to a particular political ideology?
Yep.
That was conspiracy theory.
That's right.
Now they openly admit it, and you're still being called a conspiracy theorist for saying it. Oh, no. We're not artificially manipulating what videos come up on YouTube. We're not artificially manipulating Twitter or Google search results in order to push a particular political ideology. No. We're doing it to stop you. See the difference? Can't you see the difference?
I love how they put the Star Trek theme in there too. Or not Star Trek, I'm sorry. I'm the wrong sci-fi nerd. The Star Wars theme in there. He was seduced by the dark side.
Yes.
The Dark Lord, the Sith Lord seduced him.
Yes, Master Lord Kane. You will click on Ben Shapiro, and you will go to Jordan Peterson, and then you will kill all of the younglings, my Dark One. Welcome to the dark side of the Force.
Some men discover far-right videos by accident while others seek them out. The radicalization of young men is driven by a complex stew of emotional, economic, and political elements, James, many having nothing to do with social media. But critics and independent researchers say YouTube has inadvertently created a dangerous on-ramp to extremism by combining two things: a business model that rewards provocative videos with exposure and advertising dollars, and an algorithm that guides users down personalized paths meant to keep them glued to their screens. It sounds like corporate media to me. Sounds exactly like the corporate press, doesn't it?
It actually sounds like.
Look at
why, I don't know if you have them there in Australia, but here they actually had to pass a law against subliminal advertising. I think it was back in the 40s, even maybe the 50s, but they had to pass a law because advertisers and mainstream media were deliberately trying to figure out how to psychologically manipulate the public into buying their shit. Like literally, this is the program that they brought to us. It's not the people. It definitely ain't the fucking. Hey, look, here's the downside: is that you are now exposing to our members of our cult to the truth and the information here. We may have a problem now. We may have to re-indoctrinate our entire audience into understanding.
Oh, good.
Our cult again. So it's kind of like a do-over. These people are fucking insane, man.
Well, it gets better. YouTube's new policies are catching educators, journalists, and activists in the crossfire. Because if you're going to make an omelette, James, you have to break a few eggs. YouTube's new policies designed to more aggressively tackle supremacist content have also led to some creators claiming their videos have been improperly removed or hidden in the process. They argue that YouTube is not distinguishing between actual hate content and videos that document hate groups for educational or journalistic purposes. I was watching a video on my show the other day, James, from Canadian TV, so I didn't have high expectations before I went in, but nonetheless, I watched it anyway with an open mind. And the person on this particular panel show said that these companies are really struggling to grapple with the nuance that exists between hate speech and normal speech. And I said, yes, that's exactly why hate speech isn't a thing. Because people know once you try to start straddling that line and picking and choosing which speech is hate speech and which speech is okay, it inevitably ends in these kinds of fuck-ups. Look at this, James. YouTube announced on Wednesday that it was taking stronger measures to ban videos alleging that a group is superior in order to justify discrimination, segregation, or exclusion. Ironically, the people at YouTube are discriminating against an ideology that they claim they are superior to. That being, anything on the right, essentially.
The far right, the alt-right, the Nazis.
Right, yes, the decentralized cult. And it resulted in a number of channels being pulled down, James, including a channel run by a history teacher, a video uploaded by the Southern Poverty Law Center, the known Nazis at the Southern Poverty Law Center, and independent journalist Ford Fisher. Fisher is a YouTube-based reporter who covers politics, activism, and extremism. He shot footage at events like the Unite the Right rally that occurred in Charlottesville, as well as gay pride parades. Some of his footage is used by documentarians and educators to study extremism and activist groups around the world. He had to go. He had to go. And this is a problem. Once you open up this wormhole, once you open up this can of worms, once you open this Pandora's box, it's very difficult to get toothpaste back in the tube, James. And I suspect that, monopolies don't always last forever. Sometimes they can, but sometimes they don't. And, I'm sure that MySpace thought that they were going to rule the roost forevermore into the future. And that didn't end up being the case.
Right.
They are breaking their own platform over politics here. Breaking their own platform. This is Harikari at a tech level.
I love it. Yeah. That's the part I do love, is that they are destroying themselves and creating a space for the free market to dominate. And we'll talk about that on another show, but you guys all know that we're working on a problem and we think we have a solution for it. But having said that, let's look in history. I'll give you just a couple of examples of exactly what they're doing. In the 15th century, the Pope, who was actually a Medici, they burned books. Why? To satisfy the Spanish Inquisition. You know those guys, right? The guys that tortured all kinds of people, that came to the problem saying, you were already guilty. All we need you to do is confess. And you can either die painfully and horribly or quick and easy. But we already know you're guilty. Yeah, those guys. Those are the guys that were burning books. And the next guys that burned books that I can remember is, I don't know, some guy named Hitler. Some guy that, decided to just, gas a bunch of people, make everybody turn in all their guns. And then they started burning books. And then they started burning humans. Let's just think about this. This is exactly what the techs are doing. They're trying to burn all the information, burn all the books, so that they can hide that they are the fascist overlords of the tech generation. This stuff was written in multiple books decades ago, maybe in some cases up to a century ago. But you're looking at things like 1984, farm animals, Animal Farm. Sorry. Farm animals. That's something else.
The author of Farm Animals has just reeled back in horror. Like, hey, I didn't do anything about politics. What the hell are you talking? Don't drag me into this. This is a kid's book.
But you
throwing everyone under the bus.
Yeah, you get my point. I think people really, 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 really need to take to heart and study and understand Martin Niemöller's poem. That simple ass poem that explains exactly what we're watching, and it explains exactly why I've been preaching over and over and over and over and over again. You better quit cheering for people to get deplatformed. You better start standing up for your enemy, because they are coming for you, and a lot of lefties right now are waking up to that. In fact, some absolutely non-political, apolitical even, channels on YouTube are being demonetized and taken down as well. People who do nothing but whittle shit with their knives. I just want you to understand the breadth with which these guys are coming after everything over a political bent.
Because they want to turn the internet into pay TV. They want to turn it into cable TV. YouTube has agreements with the big channels like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News to push their shit to the top. Other organizations like Vox, which is arguably behind all of this recent apocalypse to begin with. And I'm glad that you mentioned lefties, because I'm going to play a clip from one later on. And it's going to crystallize a lot of thoughts here. YouTube confuses everyone, satisfies nobody with half measure against homophobe Steven Crowder. A lot of people actually argue that Steven Crowder is a closet gay himself, so this is very interesting. But anyway, putting that to one side. YouTube, maybe that's why he's such a homophobe. YouTube unleashed massive confusion and satisfied apparently no one with its handling of Steven Crowder's homophobic campaign against a gay journalist on Wednesday, James. The company will demonetize Crowder, a far-right performer. Again, this use of far-right. It's really insulting to people on the far right to call people like Crowder the far right. Because they're like, please, we're much more offensive than this guy. Like, we don't even like this guy. If you know anybody on the far right, they will denounce people like Steven Crowder instantly and say they don't go far enough. For harassing Vox reporter Carlos Maza, The announcement was a partial reversal from Tuesday when YouTube said it would not take action against Crowder after a whiplash, including a series of tweets. YouTube went from declining to act against Crowder to demonetizing him to appearing to base its decision on homophobic t-shirts Crowder sells before finally saying his entire channel is a problem. Mazza said the decision is a cop-out. See, not going far enough. Because the guy who has been waging this campaign against Stephen Crowder for the last few weeks, James, said it's not the monetization that he gets from YouTube. It's the fact that he sells T-shirts by doing this stuff on YouTube. So you need to kick him off YouTube. You see, you're not allowed to earn any money in any way. That's the game here. Exclude you from the marketplace. It goes beyond YouTube. They will chase you to your own platform. They will harass your bankers. They will harass PayPal. They'll get you kicked off Patreon. They will argue to your internet service provider that you need to have your website ripped down, James, your hosting rights done. They will not stop. It does not stop at YouTube. Sorry, I cut you off there. You wanted to say something?
No. Actually, you did perfect. But to answer a question from the chat, Enabler Abe asks, wait a minute. They're deplatforming woodworkers? Why? And I can tell you, Boogie just answered that question. Because they don't want anyone on the right wing to make money. Doesn't matter, because their interpretation of anyone in the center or to the slightly right of center, you all are equal to a Nazi. Even though Nazis belong on the left side of the column, you are a Nazi. If you don't believe in the left-wing radical agenda, you're a fucking Nazi. Look at it. It's happening on every single platform, all over the internet. Every single person on mainstream cable news is saying the same things. If you don't agree with them, you're a fucking Nazi. They are trying to demonetize all of them. And you know why? Because most of those guys are country folk, are military folk that are doing survival techniques. How you can survive out on your own without any involvement in the corporate structure of America. You can literally take a knife and a ball of string and go survive. That's what these guys are teaching. And for those people at YouTube, mainstream media, CNN, they don't agree with that. They think that that is an anathema to their way of what the world should be. They want you completely 100% beholden to the society of libs. That's it. That's literally straight out of 1984. It's the exact program. I mean, just read the books, man, and just apply that to today. Just think of it in how is it affecting your daily life, and you'll see this is what these people are doing. They want to push society into a bunch of mindless drones that do what they're told. Simple.
Arguably less so the far left agenda, I would say, and more so just the corporatist agenda, James.
Right.
Corporate media, right? Corporate media, big corporations pulling up the drawbridge, blocking people's access to marketplaces. I watched a video the other day of a guy who does relaxation YouTube clips. So he plays, soft music and says, you are getting sleepy, your eyes are heavy, picture yourself on the beach to help people go to sleep. He was demonetized. And, he's heartbroken. He's like, what the hell have I done? But this is the thing. They're going to come for you eventually. It's just a matter of when. We fly under the radar because we're incredibly unpopular, which is fine by me. That's fine.
Yep.
Long may that continue.
Yep. Forever. I often say people that are equal in numbers to us or even close. I mean, just think about what we actually represent in the world, in the platform scheme of things. Forget about even if you just took it to America. Let's just look at the platform numbers. How many users did we figure out there are? 8 billion users. So even if we had 100,000 views on this show, we would equal 0.001% of actual people watching us. I mean, it's such an incredibly small number that they don't care about us. They care. They're doing it to everybody.
We would be a pimple on the arsehole of the internet, effectively. Yeah. But see, the Daily Beast is very much against people harassing people, James, you'll be pleased to know. So they're very much in favor of people being taken off YouTube, taken off Twitter, taken off Facebook for perceived harassment. And I just wanted to follow that up with BuzzFeed. We found the guy behind the viral drunk Pelosi video. We got him. We got him. Like George W. Bush, we got him.
We got him.
The video that racked up millions of views and sparked a national conversation was uploaded by a sports blogger from the Bronx, currently on probation for domestic battery. Because you see, James, we want to protect people. We don't want to harass people on the internet, do we? But here at BuzzFeed, we can believe in harassing people on the internet and not harassing people on the internet at the same time. Interestingly enough, Orwell referred to this as doublethink. You'll be pleased to know. Being able to hold two contradictory views at the exact same time. On May 22nd, a Donald Trump superfan and occasional sports blogger from the Bronx named Sean Brooks posted a video clip of Nancy Pelosi on his personal Facebook page. The clip showed Pelosi at her most excitable, stammering during a press conference as she voiced frustration over an abortive infrastructure meeting with the president. Brooks's commentary on the video was succinct. Is Pelosi drunk? 13 minutes later, a Facebook official told the Daily Beast Brooks posted a very different Pelosi video to Facebook page called Politics Watchdog, one of a series of hyper-partisan news operations Brooks runs. We hate hyper-partisan news here at the Daily Beast. The Daily Beast. The effect was to make it sound as though the Speaker of the House was slurring her words drunkenly while criticizing Donald Trump. 15 minutes after that, the same doctored video appeared on a second Facebook page, All News 24. This clip was identical to the Politics Watchdog video in every way, except it didn't carry the Politics Watchdog branding that was superimposed over the earlier video, blah, blah, blah. Whoever posted it had access to the director's cut. The video was an instant social media smash, surging through the internet's well-worn ley lines of credulity and venom. It was shared more than 60,000 times on Facebook and accumulated 4 million page views from links drunk as a skunk, mused actor alt-right curmudgeon James Woods, whose tweet of the video scored 17,000 retweets and 55,000 likes. Brooks, a 34-year-old day laborer currently on probation after pleading guilty to domestic battery, claims that his drunk commentary on the unaltered Pelosi video had no connection to the now infamous fake clip that premiered less than 15 minutes later. I wasn't the individual who created that Pelosi video, he insisted in a telephone interview. Now, this is both scary and promising at the same time. Scary in that a company like the Daily Beast, who is apparently against private citizens being harassed on the internet, will go out of their way to dox you if you upload a viral meme of the speaker, Nancy Pelosi, or one of their favored political heroes. They will go out, they will hunt you down, they will find you, they will dig up your personal life. If you post something to your personal Facebook page that goes viral, they will hunt you down, right? So that's scary. But at the same time, it's promising because apparently a 34-year-old drunk day laborer was able to change the internet and create a national news story. So at the same time that they're trying to dox this guy as a warning to everybody else, I'm sure that there are other people out there, average, everyday people who are not involved in the media in any way, shape, or form. You can inject your virus into this system and have it spread like wildfire, like that. And here they are admitting it. They are so frightened of a 34-year-old day laborer who can upload a meme and have it go viral that they need to hunt him down and make an example of him. Isn't that interesting, Jay?
By the way, this is illegal, what they did. Just to be clear, it's absolutely 100% illegal for it's not covered under the First Amendment publishing rights because this guy was not a public figure. In fact, that's been the reasons for lawsuits. And it's actually a Supreme Court decision that actually stands that if a newspaper attacks a private citizen and things are determined to be false that they published, they are 100% liable for that guy's everything that negatively impacted his life due to it, which means major lawsuit. So it's on the books. There's Supreme Court decisions, and that tells you how scared the media is of a fucking meme. So what did we tell you about a year ago? You better learn how to meme, because this is how scared they are, that they're willing to risk their ass in court over a meme. That's how much they fear you. That's how important the above and below technique is that Donald Trump has used successfully, and we're going to use again successfully for 2020. Just remember what we told you here. That's how scared they are of you right now. The viewers watching this, you 5 people that are watching us. That is how scared they are of you.
Just to show, James, that not everybody on the left is a raving, censorious, tyrannical lunatic. Have you heard of Jimmy Dore? The Jimmy Dore Show? He's a liberal. He's a Democrat. And these are some of his thoughts. And I wanted to play this just to show that you're not alone. If you're a conservative, if you're pro-Trump, You are not the only ones fighting this fight. And people on the other side are also taking up the sword for free speech, much to the dismay and horror of their comrades. Check this out.
So this is the thread that she linked to. It's this guy, Carlos Maza. He says, this is the ironic. He says, so I have pretty thick skin when it comes to online harassment, but something has been really bothering me. And he says, since I started working at Vox, Steven Crowder has been making video after video debunking strike through.
Incidentally, just a point of order, Carlos Maza, before he started working at Vox, James, was working at Media Matters. So he calls himself a journalist, but he's actually a media activist. Just thought I'd put that out there.
Every single video has included repeated overt attacks on my sexual orientation and ethnicity, and here's a sample. And he says, I've been called an anchor baby, a lispy queer, a Mexican. Is it being called a Mexican, Steph? Is that bad?
I go by Mexican. I think it's a pretty good thing, Jimmy. Mexican? Where are my Mexicans in the room? All right, I was hoping for a Viva, but that'll do.
So it is not nice that he calls them a lispy queer, but I think anybody who calls a gay person a lispy queer has already outed themselves out to be a fucking moron, right? Like, why would you care what a guy who would say that says? Who cares if that guy's a fucking moron?
Remember, this is a guy on the left. This is one of those raging lefty liberals, James.
Anybody who watches Steven Crowder is also a fucking moron. Why would you give a shit? There's assholes in the way. Hey, the guy from the KKK called me a name. Who cares? I don't give a fuck. That guy's in the KKK. People come after me all the time. There are channels on YouTube dedicated just to making videos attacking me. There's like at least 3, right? And then there's the other jagoffs who do it every month on their own anyway, right? So this has been happening. And then, of course, there's the Washington Post who came after me, CNN who came after me. Those are real people that are respected, not like that piece of shit Steven Crowder. Nobody respects that guy. That guy comes after you. It's like a badge of honor. That's how I look at it, right?
But you see here, so he also gets attacked by CNN. So his own personal views about Steven Crowder, you can put that to one side if you're a Crowder fan. But he also gets attacked by the CNNs and the Washington Post, James. And he's on the left. And one more little minute or so here for you.
I mean, that's how scary this gets.
Yeah, so what they do now, if they want to shut up an anti-war voice like mine, is they put me in an article in the Washington Post or CNN that says I'm in there with Nazis and pedophiles and the KKK. They did that to me. That's not some asshole comedian doing that to me. That's the goddamn CNN, the most trusted name in news. They did that to me. Did I fucking say they should be taken down and we should get rid of their YouTube channel and they shouldn't have the right of no, that's part of being a fucking grown-up with a free speech society. You don't have a right. Yeah. Everybody gets picked on who's a public person. Everybody does. Everybody gets made fun of. Everybody gets shit on. They try to take my livelihood away by discrediting me. That's people with power do that. Not some fucking asshole right-wing comedian who nobody pays attention to. All right.
So you see there, right? And this is why I wanted to play this. You know, Democrat comrades, brothers and sisters on the other side, if you are cheering the deplatforming and the demonetization of what you see as hateful content, trust me when I say it is only a matter of time until you are cast in with the Nazis, until you are cast in with the bigots. Because as the bar moves further and further and further to the globalist corporatist line that you must push in order to remain quote unquote safe, those who fall outside of that line will be considered in the exact same way as the Nazis and the bigots and the KKK. And if a liberal comedian like Jimmy Dore getting attacked from the Washington Post and CNN doesn't explain that very fact to you, then nothing will. Nothing.
To steal a line from the chat room, hey, leave Jackoff Smirnoff out of it.
But see what I mean, though? That if it will, the window for acceptable speech will get more narrow and more narrow and more narrow over time. And if you're anti-war, if you're a liberal who's anti-war, James, you will now be called a Nazi.
That's right.
Consider that. So it's not just a conservative thing to stand up and say, you know, we're for free speech. Arguably, in times gone past, the conservatives haven't been in favor of free speech. arguably, when the church was more powerful, for example. Remember, they had modesty rules, right? And things that must not be said, but now the tables have completely flipped. And I don't think, there are people out there who call themselves liberals. We did a whole show on this. There are people out there who call themselves liberals who are not liberals. They are censorious, tyrannical demons who, if you don't push the corporate lines pushed by Washington Post and CNN, you're a Nazi. So let this be a place marker for the Democrat comrades who watch this show. You're going to be a Nazi too, unless you start defending people you don't like and their right to access this marketplace on social media and YouTube and other such places. You're allowed to defend people you don't like. There's no rule that says you're not allowed. Right?
Yeah. Let me ask you this: if you are one of those people that agrees with this deplatforming bullshit, why did we ever write the First Amendment in the first place? If all we cared about was speech we agreed with, why would we have to protect speech? Just think about that. Just think to yourself, why the fuck do we need a First Amendment? It is precisely to protect against speech you disagree with, so that I can tell you to go fuck yourself, and you can't do fuck all about it. You can't arrest me. You can't sue me. You can't put me in prison. You can't end the livelihood of me and my family because I don't fucking like you, because you're a worthless piece of shit. You don't get that right. But now you have idiots that have been raised with this liberal, suppressive, the almighty corporatist leader dollar bullshit mentality that you must now be oppressed, and they see it as somehow they're the freedom seekers. How is it that the oppressor is the freedom seeker? I don't understand. Learn how to. It's insanity. It's pure insanity. Like, the whole idea is, and I've said this before, the whole idea is it's about free ideas, right? How do you solve a problem if you can't even talk about there might be a problem? You don't know if it's time to have a good idea. And the only thing that beats and defeats bad ideas is good ideas. The only way you know you need to have a good idea is that you are exposed to the bad idea, right? If, for example, you crazy whack job freaks that believe in climate change made by man, right? If you're not allowed to talk about it, how the fuck are you going to do anything about it? Because the science proves you wrong. Therefore, society at some point here, and I think we've already reached that tipping point, to be honest with you, other than the few in charge that want to steal your money. As far as society across the board on the planet, they all think you're fucking full of shit, okay? We all know that the science itself proves you wrong. But let's just go to your utopia. If, according to your best guest scientists, if we do everything that you want to do, quit using oil, quit using coal, go purely to wind and solar, go purely to electric vehicles. If we do everything that you, in your wildest utopian imagination, want to do, your scientists say we will only affect the world temperature by 1/10 of 1 degree in 100 years. And to do all that will have killed millions of people. Now you tell me how the fuck that makes any sense. But you're still allowed to talk about it, aren't you? And so the fuck am I. And that's the First Amendment.
Look, if you want to be a successful influencer, before we move on to our next topic here, because we've done this to death, if you want to be a successful influencer on the internet, James, here's what you do. Push inane, shallow, vapid celebrity culture at every opportunity. Influence young girls, like I said, to, pump poison into their face so their selfies look good. Twerk as often as possible. Take selfies of yourself.
Should I start twerking? Oh,
right?
That'll ruin the
start
show.
twerking. Start twerking. Become a blue liberal check mark on Twitter, right? And do deals with perfume companies and clothing companies to sell their shit on your Instagram page. Then that's how you successfully influence people. Change your avatar to a rainbow during Pride Month. Do that. Talk about Black History Month when it's Black History Month in nothing but glowing terms. And wherever possible, make sure that you criticize Western civilization, America, or just white people in general, wherever you get an opportunity. Make sure you do that, and you'll become a successful internet influencer. If you want to be an unsuccessful internet influencer, don't do any of those things. In fact, speak out against it. There's your formula. There's your platform. And like I said, you can be a Democrat and speak out against war, and you'll end up in the pages of the Washington Post being called a Nazi. And if that doesn't frighten the absolute shit out of our Democrat comrades, then I'm afraid nothing will. Here's one for you, James. Go ahead. Are you muted, sir? He's reloading his shizzle over there.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Gotcha now, brother.
All right, cool. Sorry. I just wanted to cover Dux Regenus's comment real quick. He said, if James starts twerking, I'm done with the internet forever.
He's out.
He's out.
Yes. That's enough internet for today. Trump's big win leaves critics sputtering, James. This is in the Washington Post of all places, you'll be pleased to know. Because President Trump emerges as a clear winner from his week-long confrontation with Mexico over our neighbor's lax enforcement of its southern border, reflexive Trump critics will scramble to find some way of containing what is a clear Trump triumph. I actually found that earlier today. I could have brought up half a dozen articles to prove it, but I just didn't have time. We got too much stuff to go through. The line that they're going with is, this deal isn't new. This is the deal they agreed 2 months ago, which I think is a strange way to attack the guy, because I'm like, oh, good. So he got it done even quicker than you said. Okay. Good job. Good job there, New York Times. Which came with assists by Vice President Pence and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who conducted the key negotiations. Already what we have heard about long-term damage to trust between the North American allies, about investor nervousness and Trump's unpredictability. This sort of flailing about to deny the obvious says nothing about Trump and much about those critics who can no more admit he played high-stakes poker and won a round on border security than they can admit that the president delivered a magnificent tribute to the heroes of Normandy on Thursday. Much of the media has overheated now, and like an engine that has run too long without an oil change, has begun to seize up, stall, and even melt. Fantastic analogy. That Trump has contributed to the slow wreck of American media is undeniable. It's a feature, not a bug, of his presidency to attack the media elites. And no matter how often the center-right journalists counsel him to abandon the Stalinist enemy of the people rhetoric, he hasn't, because it triggers a flaming hatred among the ideologues of the left, with platforms and elites eager to signal each other that they are part of the tribe menaced by this Godzilla from Trump Tower. Isn't that fantastic?
Who wrote that? Who wrote that? That journalist needs to get a plug.
Hewitt.
Hugh Hewitt. Oh, and I hate Hugh Hewitt too. Honestly, I don't like the guy at all. I think he's a cuck. But that is fantastic.
You're allowed to defend
writing.
People you don't like.
That's
See
right.
how that works?
That is fantastic writing right there. And he hit the nail. Like, he literally said almost identical what we have said before, is that I don't understand how the media doesn't get it, that Trump is literally manipulating them nonstop into destroying themselves, and they don't get it. It's like they have rage blinders on. Fuck, I hate Trump! And it causes an inability to think and realize that they would have been much more successful trying to subvert Trump casually, quietly, than what they have tried to do. They have literally destroyed themselves. And I'm glad for it, don't get me wrong. It's just an observable, like looking at it from a scientist's point of view, right? And saying, these fucking people are batshit crazy.
Speaking of people that dislike Trump, this guy made the news lately, James. Justin Amash. Amash. How do you say Amish? How do you say his name?
Not Amish, or you will have a bunch of people from Pennsylvania with pitchforks coming after you. It's definitely
That's all right.
Amash.
They'll never get here. They don't believe in planes. So fuck it. How Justin Amash's one-man revolt versus Trump could gain steam, James. This is the other end on the spectrum of CNN.
I wanted to say a comment, and then I got a question. First, I want to salute your courage.
Salute your courage. Bravo. Bravo, Justin. He gets a standing ovation. Sit down. Okay, that's fantastic. Why did he get a standing ovation? Following Robert Mueller's statement Wednesday spelling out the conclusions of his report and rejecting the president's accusations about the origins of the special counsel's investigation, Republican Rep. Justin Amash tweeted the most pertinent point, James, the ball is in our court, Congress. The ball is in our court. He's also a sports fan, Justin. The tweet came the morning after Amash returned to a hero's welcome at a town hall Tuesday in Grand Rapids, Michigan, after sending out a series of Twitter threads explaining why President Donald Trump committed impeachable offenses and why Attorney General William Barr covered up the findings of the Mueller report. Yes, the Mueller report that he released when he had no legal obligation to do so. Yes, the Mueller report that the unredacted version of can be viewed by Democratic leaders in a skiff, but they refuse to read it. Yes, the Mueller report, which anybody at any time can go online and Google and read for themselves. Yes, that very same report, apparently William Barr covered it up. He covered it up. It's either the worst cover-up of all time or the biggest mind fuck of all time. I can't figure out which one it is. I can't. Are people hypnotized or are they stupid? I'm not sure. Much more representative of the party as a whole is the approach taken by Senate Leader, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Barr and Senator Lindsey Graham, who on this week's New Yorker cover are depicting shining Trump's shoes, James. Establishment Trumpism is all the rage. But Amash doesn't seem to care. When the president has attacked Amash, the congressman has doubled down and gone after him even harder. His arguments offer the kind of clear-headed and pointed statements that Democrats had been hoping to hear from their own leadership. Now, it's moments like this, James, where I start to get a little bit cynical. And I start to think to myself, well, why would a guy like Justin Amash make such a public stand against a Republican president? And then I thought to myself, well, he must be in like a purple district, say. He must be in a dangerous position, so he's appealing to left-wing sensibilities, perhaps. But then I looked up his district, which is the 3rd district in Michigan, I think you'll find, and let me bring this up for you. I was wrong. Look at the presidents they've voted for. In 92, Bush 46-34, Dole 53-39. 2000, Bush 60-38, Bush 59-40, McCain 49-48. In 2012, Romney 53-46. It's starting to get a little more Democrat, isn't it? And then in 2016, President Trump won that district 52-42%. Is there a chance here that Justin Amash might be primaried in his own seat? It seems to be a pretty
100%.
Strong Republican seat.
100%. There's not a question. He's getting primary. We've already heard from people that are going to start investigating into a run against him already. There is no doubt he's done in his district. And if we had the clip, I'd play it of the girl that went to that exact same rally and tore his ass up that represents Trump. Trump voters outvoted in that district by 10. All right. I don't know if it's very difficult to tell people, to explain to people how big an ass whooping 10 points is. In the political scheme of things, you generally gonna win. Like 2 points is a solid victory. 5 points is amazing. 10 is the biggest ass whooping of all ass whoopings. It was like, that would be equivalent to how fast we took over Baghdad, the first Gulf War. I mean, seriously, it is a major ass whooping to get 10 points. Like that is the landslide of all landslide. It is so large of a margin, no matter the voter turnout, that you can't walk away from that. I guarantee Amash is getting primary. Now I've lost your audio. We're just having a freaking fan. Oh, there we go.
I'm here.
Fantastic.
Maybe the people in Amash's district are just unhappy, James.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something that they can learn from the good people of New Zealand, because that country is going so well right now. You'll be pleased to know. Forget GDP. New Zealand is prioritizing gross national well-being. Oh, what could possibly go wrong? The country's new well-being budget emphasizes citizen happiness over capitalist gain, because you know who the happiest people in the world are, James? Those who live in communist countries. I mean, not having to worry about earning more money, not having to worry about buying food, for example, not having to worry about purchasing fuel for your car or moving up the socioeconomic ladder. Well, that's just a recipe for happiness, isn't it? Isn't it really? You'll be pleased to know, James, we usually think of a country's wealth or capital in terms of its financial bottom line, its gross domestic product. And I'm not going to say that there aren't issues with measuring that in terms of GDP, because GDP can often blur things. Like it calculates all the money as a whole, and that doesn't necessarily equate to people at the bottom of the ladder. It's the best measure we have, but it's by no means perfect, James. Because, for a long time, GDP has been going up in countries like Australia and the United States, whilst the wages of people at the lower end of the scale have remained stagnant or even dropped. So it's all about where the money breaks down, where the money's going in, where the money's coming out. That's also important. But GDP is, it's like hitting a mosquito with a sledgehammer kind of thing. It's the best measurement we have, but it's not by any means perfect. But New Zealand is challenging the world to assess it in terms of a very different commodity, as the country released the first ever well-being budget, a happiness budget, James. Isn't this wonderful? To Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, the purpose of government spending is to ensure citizens' health and life satisfaction. I can't get no. And that, not wealth or economic growth, is the metric by which a country's progress should be measured. GDP alone, she said, does not guarantee improvement to our living standards, and nor does it take into account who benefits and who is left out. Quite right. The budget requires all new spending to go toward 5 specific well-being goals. Here we go. Bolstering mental health, reducing child poverty, supporting Indigenous peoples, moving to a low-carbon emission economy. Yes, because freezing to death in the dark, I can't wait for that. And flourishing in a digital age, James. Flourishing in a digital age. The kind of flourishing that saw a young man in New Zealand get 14 years prison for sharing a live stream of the recent mosque shooting. Yes, sounds like flourish. He'll be flourishing in a jail cell giving oral sex to white nationalists in prison before you know it. Sounds like a great deal to me. To measure progress toward these goals, New Zealand will use 61 indicators tracking everything from loneliness to trust in government institutions, alongside more traditional issues like water security. They'll be measuring trust in government institutions while they're throwing people in prison for sharing things on the internet, James. Ardern, who has spoken of empathy as the trait most needed in a political leader nowadays, oh, that's horrifying, said that her government has laid the foundation for not just one well-being budget, but a different approach for government decision-making altogether. Because that's what socialists like to do when they get in power. Change all the rules. Change all the rules. Oh, you know what? We're not going to go by that capitalist system of assessing whether people are better or worse off. No, we're going to invent a whole new metric, and it's going to say, how do you feel? Good? Yes. No, bad? No. Okay, most people feel good. Excellent. Give them more free shit. What could possibly go wrong, James?
How much do you want to bet that the answer okay will go to the good column?
Well, but here's the thing, though. How are you going to have a lot of people be happy with their lot in life, James, if you reject capitalism? Right? Yeah. Because nothing has brought more prosperity and more happiness to more people around the world than capitalism. Yeah. And in countries where capitalism is actively rejected, where people have no incentive, you've got this conundrum basically in government, don't you? The carrot or the stick, right? Do you incentivize the donkey to walk with the carrot, or do you hit him with the stick to make him walk? And that's really the only two options you have, and it's all about how you approach it. So if there's no incentive to earn more, if there's no incentive to invest, if there's no incentive to try to build something, build a business, build something that makes money so you can employ other people, then how the hell are you supposed to get people encouraged enough to work? And that's the problem that socialist and communist countries face is, more often than not, if you tax the living shit out of everybody and you de-incentivize these kinds of drives, then people won't. People won't. And there was a joke in Soviet Russia, James, and then I'll kick it back to you. Something along the lines of, here in Russia, we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. Let me give a dose of reality to all my English and UK brothers and sisters. Do you know why you have the EU? Do you know why that body exists? It's because of Greece. You want to know about something? Start doing its history. Start figuring out what happened. Exactly what Boogie just described happened in Greece. These are a bunch of people that wanted to go towards a more socialist utopia, and they bankrupted their country to the point where they were crashing constantly, becoming a significant drain on the European economy, to the point where these people were about to go as a country. An entire country was bankrupt. Seriously. They were going to basically, all of their debts were going to become insolvent. And this because they wanted to vote themselves, I think it was 2 months vacation a year at full salary. They wanted like basically a $20 an hour minimum wage. Like they
Retirement
wanted
age at 50, I think it was.
retire at 50, 6-hour work days. This is what they did to the country. That's socialism for you. That's what Jacinda Ardern wants in New Zealand. Greece is why you have the EU and why the why the UK is paying so much money into that system to stabilize the euro. Why did they even go to that single currency? Go back and watch in history how they manipulated the currency on the currency markets, right? Every country had their own currency and they were being manipulated. So at the same time as Greece was voting itself into socialism, what do you think the bankers did? What do you think those very people like Juncker, who sits there in the EU now, did when they started having problems in Greece? Do you think they helped Greece out? Or do you think they started a run on their currency and the French currency at the same time? That's what they did. Go look in history and figure it out. These guys did it to create the disaster. Remember what we talked about, above and below technique. You're watching this in society at the country level. They created a problem so that they could provide the solution so that they could dominate society. That's what happened. That's exactly what Jacinda Ardern is about to try to do again with New Zealand in order to create a socialist world utopia.
Yeah, and let's not forget, James, too. The EU very much disapproves of any kind of tariffs. And of course, as soon as the EU free trading zone was erected, then all the countries outside of that zone were slapped with what? Tariffs, right? And in, a person, a worker is considered to be a unit of capital. So they had the free movement of people around the EU known as the Schengen Agreement. So, any group of people can move from one country to another country where jobs are being paid for, where you're getting more benefits and higher wage, James, thus pushing people out of that particular country in that particular sector out of work. I mean, it's a fucking utopia. It's an absolute dream, the EU. So congratulations to them. James, but let's put all that to one side. It's now time for the hammering, the most epic hammering of all time.
Stop the hammering.
It's a hammering double up, James. I'll open the kimono here. I haven't even watched this clip yet, and I didn't have to. I brought up the thumbnail and I saw this. Acosta, Stelter, reliable sources. You just know it's going to be good. You just know it's going to be good. Let's hit this though while we're at it.
The Weekly Stelter.
All right. Let's see what Bri and Jimmy Boy have for us this week on this edition of The Hammering. Let's go.
You do quote sources on the record and also on background anonymously. You quote an unnamed senior White House official saying, quote, "The president's insane."
Wait, you quote sources on the record, but then the
and
actual
off the record.
quote is off the record. It's an anonymous
Off the
source.
record.
So far, all you've done is spew word salad.
Yeah. See, this is the thing though, right? You don't have to be anonymous if you say something like the president is insane. I mean, you'll be fucking held up on a pedestal by these people. You'll be hero worshipped. The only reason I would think that if it is true, and I'm not saying it is true, but let's just imagine that it's true, that a White House official is on the record, quote unquote, without being on the record because they didn't put their name to the quote, but putting that anomaly to one side. Let's just say a White House official is quoted as saying the president is insane. Well, why are we taking moral lectures from people who are willing to work for an insane president, right? Because the only reason this person wouldn't be putting their name to it is because they don't want to lose their job. So they've obviously got a very cushy job in there at the White House, but they're working for a president who they believe is insane. So where do your principles kick in here, right? Right? So, you're working for your boss. You want to go on the record, say your boss is insane. Well, why don't you quit your job then? Oh, no, I wouldn't dream of doing that. I've got bills to pay.
Was that person speaking literally or figuratively?
I think he was venting his frustrations, this particular official. We sat down one afternoon to talk about how things were going with this particular source's area of expertise.
Right.
I don't want to get too deeply into that, but
of course not.
Plopped down in the seat
I don't want to have to make something up.
in front of me and said, the president's insane. And
Second. Go red. All right, here's the new stream up. Let's reshare this out. All right, share this. Sorry, guys, we're aware. We're going to back it up. Don't know. It's been happening to us pretty much nonstop for a couple weeks now. We're working on trying to figure it out, but all the best brains that we have, which aren't very many, just can't have quite figured it out yet. But yeah, we're gonna get to the bottom of it. We've reshared. Let's give it a minute here. We're back. YouTube's back. 3Scope Jimmy, that's right. 3Scope Jimmy. Blame me. It's my fault. I really do. I literally need to earn a little bit more money, but because I need a new computer anyways, because this computer is not quite up to task, but that should not be happening. It didn't happen for 2 years. Suddenly it just starts kicking in when all of the censorship starts. It's out of the blue. Like, I don't know. So we'll see what the fuck happens.
Conspiracy theorist. Yeah, you should be kicked off YouTube for that.
Yep.
For pushing dangerous conspiracy theories, James.
I know. Yeah,
that's the best part for me. For me, that's the best part about the censorship, right? By banning these people, they are merely confirming the thesis that these people say to their audience.
Exactly.
Right? If the theory was wrong, like if the theory that these tech companies were targeting these people was wrong, then you would leave them on the platform.
That's right.
So you're a right-wing, you're a crazy right-wing conspiracy theorist, James. You have a YouTube channel called YouTube is Targeting People Like Me. You come out on your YouTube channel and say people is targeting people like me because they deem me to be a dangerous right-wing conspiracy theorist. YouTube then removes your channel for being a dangerous right-wing conspiracy theorist. And then when you say YouTube is targeting people and calling them dangerous right-wing conspiracy theorists, and the evidence is that they remove my channel for doing so, they will call you a dangerous right-wing conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean?
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
How the hell do we even compete with that? I got no idea. All right, let's rock and roll. I think everyone's back. Let's kick it off. Let's go back to Jimmy Boy and Bri.
Particular source's area of expertise. I don't want to get too deeply into that, but
because he doesn't want to make something up.
Down in the seat in front of me and said the president's insane.
He's insane.
And I later went back and talked to this official and said, well, why did you say that? And this official said, really, I was just frustrated with the president's lack of understanding about the Constitution, the constraints placed on the presidency, guardrails that were put in place.
Yes, James. He's very frustrated. Very frustrated by the lack of understanding the president has for the Constitution. Allow me to underarm that one over the plate, sir. Have a free swing. Have a free swing at it.
These people with the Constitution. Okay, so let's see. They violated the president's, Fourth Amendment, Sixth Amendment. They violated Mike Flynn's Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment. They violated all of their First Amendments, and they constantly attack the president over his right to say whatever the fuck he wants. These people they've never met the Constitution. In fact, I think they think the Constitution is written down on a napkin at McDonald's because these people have no fucking clue.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Just a piece of, to take the words of George W. Bush, just a piece of paper. Just a piece of paper.
By our founding fathers, the president wanted to know how long you can keep an acting secretary on. He wanted to know,
how dare he ask questions? How dare he ask what he's allowed to do and not do?
what else he could do with his cabinet. And it's this kind of behavior behind the scenes that really frustrates his top officials, I think, a lot more than people understand. And
yeah, I bet it's really frustrating for people who have been living, breathing, eating, sleeping, dreaming, and shitting politics in Washington, D.C. for the entirety of their adult lives to have to deal with somebody who doesn't conform to those rules. Gee, it must be really frustrating to have somebody in there who isn't so ensconced in the DC swamp machine that he actually puts people under pressure to do their job. And hey, if this guy's not doing his job, can I just fucking get rid of this guy or what? Why do I have to keep him on? Oh, this is absurd. The president's insane. He's insane. He wants people to do things, and if they don't do what he asks, he wants to fire them. That's not the way Washington runs, Mr. President. That's not the way it works. You see, what we're used to here in Washington, D.C. is having a job for fucking life, regardless of how we perform. And that's the way we like it. How dare you come in and mix it up?
So I think this official was trying to explain all of that.
You know what? If if government officials and people in D.C. are frustrated by the president, I say fucking about time. Bravo. Good.
Yes.
Good. Isn't that what he was elected for?
That's exactly it. And this is the point, again, about the fucking Constitution, right? These are the same, especially these two idiots. I mean, we love to make fun of these two morons. But because when they expound on the Constitution, it's fucking priceless. But they're literally taking the position that somehow Congress has authority over the executive branch. That's the position that they're spitting every day on CNN, all nonstop, and MSNBC and NBC and all the others too. But on CNN specifically, they're spewing nonstop how Congress somehow has the rights and powers over the executive branch. The Constitution's crystal clear. In fact, if you go back to the 1970s, there's Supreme Court decisions that specifically spelled out separate but equal. Now, I've had this discussion before about what equal really means, and the left has forgotten what equal really means. See, they fought a battle, let's say, for equal rights for whatever protected group you want to name it. Then when they got equal with that group, they're still fighting. They didn't know how to become a winner. They didn't know how to just go back home. No, they had to keep fighting to be more equal. There's no such thing as more equal. These people don't want equality. They want dominance. They want reparations. They want to teach those ancestors of ours a lesson by kicking our ass. That's the insanity that these people see. They don't understand that separate but equal means Congress has no authority over the executive branch, and the executive branch has no authority over the Congress. It's crystal clear. The Constitution is written so that anyone with a 6th grade education could read it. Now, I want to be clear about this again. It wasn't written because that was the language of the day. It was written specifically down. I want to say this in the best way possible. It was dumbed down so that every citizen of the United States had no excuse to not understand the Constitution. So that's why it was written so 6th grade educated people could read it. Because if you listen and learn and watch the speeches of the day, those speeches that are political are much more highbrow and incendiary language and all kinds of superfluous words and things like that thrown in there. That's how you can tell that they did it specifically. Not to mention the fact that we have papers and writings from people that said we did it so everybody could understand it, so that the king couldn't just put a proclamation up in the town square that said today the law is this, tomorrow the law is this, next week it's going to be that. It was written that way, plain as day. These people have decided to try to lie to people by obfuscating and adding words and taking out words, changing the meaning of the words. Look, contractual language tells you that the word and means and. It doesn't mean and or. It doesn't mean and but. It fucking means and. These people are the same idiots that will argue over what the definition of is. Well, is fucking is.
Quality rant there from former Periscope star James R., who has now been banned for right-wing conspiracy theories and influencing. Very good, James. Just in your last ever production, would you like to promote any kind of handbag, perfume, or Botox for the young girls in the audience?
No,
just
thanks.
To try
I'm good.
and work your way back into the good books? Make your way back into the good books, James? Okay, let's carry on. By the way, follow Kim Kardashian, if you would.
You mentioned Kellyanne Conway. Her husband, George Conway, continues to say the president is mentally unwell, unfit. Take a look at his latest tweets from today saying the president should resign and seek psychological treatment. I commented that the tweets are astonishing coming from the husband of a top White House official. And Conway wrote back and said,
I just lost again. Are you there? I lost your audio. This time I lost your audio. No. We got no audio from you. No audio from you. Is it my fault? Test, test, test. Test. All right. Testing. Can you hear me? Testing. Show audio's going out. Can you hear me? I can't hear you yet. Show audio came back, but your audio has not come back to the show. This is a fuck. Oh, I just heard something. Is that you or me? Come on. Oh, jeez. Sorry, guys. I realize this sucks for you guys, but I'm doing all I can. Captain Scotty, I'm giving her all she's got. Yeah, that's right. Test, test, test. That's good. That's not. Switch. Switch to. Test. Nothing's coming in on Skype for some reason. It's almost like Skype went dead. I got no audio on Skype coming into the desktop. Want to try to rehook? Can you see me? All right, let's rehook. No, I've got no audio. Testing, testing, testing. Testing. Skype's not coming through at all. You there? I can't hear you. What the hell? All right. Apparently, this is a terminal issue. I've got no audio coming into my computer for some reason. Like I said, guys, I apologize. Just blame me. We turned it into a shit show. You got half-assed of a hammering. It's all my fault. I don't know what to do other than buy a new computer, and I'm a poor, broke black boy. So, that being said, the best I can do is say, if you want, we'll try to restart. We'll basically have to restart the whole computer and try and start over, but, we'll just try to get through a hammering. Sound good, Boogie? We'll try this. Give us like 5 minutes. We'll come back on air. All right, cool. Guys, we'll be back. We're going to try this and see if we can fix it.